While many questions and answers are subjective, it never hurts to develop our critical thinking by looking at various criteria and comparing it to each other. What martial art is the best has been an endless debate between many, and while there's no definitive answer, it wouldn't hurt to compare the pros and cons of various practices to see which martial art has an advantage compared to others. To exercise our brains, in this martial arts journey video, we will be taking a look at comparing best to worst martial art. Before I begin calculating points dedicated to various martial arts and comparing them to each other, there are a few important points to mention. First of all, as I'm writing this script, I do not know myself which martial art will prevail, and will try to be as objective, unbiased, and versatile as much as I can in comparing the points. It would also be impossible to compare all existing martial arts since there are simply too many of them, and also I have not tried them all personally. Thus, I will be choosing only some of the most popular martial arts and ones which I am most familiar with. As for some of the chosen martial arts, not everyone would call them martial arts, such as boxing, yet since many people choose between traditional Eastern martial arts and Western, often more sport-based fighting practices, for the sake of interest, I will include them both. Last of all, many argue that MMA is not a martial art in itself, as it encompasses various styles of fighting, yet regarding that there are plenty of gyms which offer MMA as a practice. Thus, once more, for the interest of comparison, I will add it to the list of compared martial arts. That being said, let us begin. The martial arts which will be compared are MMA, Karate, Boxing, Wing Chun, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Shaolin Kung Fu, Aikido, Judo, Muay Thai, and Greco-Roman Wrestling, which in total makes 11 different martial arts related practices. We will be looking at a list of 13 different criteria to compare them by, ranging from effectiveness and variety of techniques to philosophy and personal development benefits, which will be scored from 0 to maximum 3 points for each criteria. If the criteria will be negative, such as likeliness of brain damage, 0 to 3 points will be removed from the martial arts total points. Now that the rules are set, let us begin. Many people start martial arts wanting to learn to defend themselves. Thus, the first part of our criteria list will be focused on this question, starting with striking effectiveness. MMA, boxing, and Muay Thai clearly prevail here, since it trains the most contemporary and most pressure-tested methods of striking. Thus, they both receive 3 points. Karate also relies on striking, both in training and competition, and while its striking techniques are less effective than boxing, MMA, and Muay Thai, it definitely deserves 2 points. Shaolin Kung Fu and Wing Chun spend a fair amount of time developing strikes as well, and while their techniques tend to be less contemporary and not pressure-tested, 1 point will be dedicated to them both. While the rest of the martial arts are more focused on grappling and include very few strikes, if any, they will all receive no points for this criteria. Next up is striking defense, which while is similar, also has some notable differences. MMA, boxing, and Muay Thai still stay the king here with 3 points, followed by Karate with 2 points. Shaolin Kung Fu and Wing Chun all focus on complicated, cooperative training, thus they will receive only 1 point. Also, I will include here that Aikido and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, which technically teaches defense against strikes and also BJJ, which while not all gyms include defense against striking, will occasionally address the question of closing the distance when a strike is thrown, giving 1 point as well to each of these practices. A logical next question is kicking techniques and kicking defense. MMA and Muay Thai offer the best kicking techniques and defense, giving them both 6 points in total. Karate also has a strong emphasis on kicking and its defense, giving it 4 points. Meanwhile, Wing Chun and Shaolin Kung Fu teach kicking techniques and defense, but it is not its main focus point, thus giving them a total of 2 points each. While Aikido and JJJ usually do not teach kicking techniques, it does address some kicking defense, giving them 1 point each. While striking and kicking are very important skills taught by martial arts which allow one to maintain distance, it is sometimes inevitable that things will get much closer into the clinch range. Thus, our next criteria is how well our martial arts perform in a close range. Judo here is undoubtedly the king, while it focuses so much on takedowns. It is also followed by Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Greco-Roman Wrestling, both receiving 3 points. Since MMA includes all the previously mentioned skills, naturally, it also receives 3 points. Further, we have Muay Thai, in which the clinch is also a common practice of training, giving it 2 points. while boxing deals with clinch situations, since it does not train takedowns, it is left only with 1 point. Wing Chun as well tends to explore close-range situations, yet since it rarely seems to deal with a clinch-type situation itself, it will receive only 1 point. JJJ and Aikido wrist locks and occasionally takedowns could also be used in a close range, and while it may not be as effective as the dominating practices, they both still deserve a single point. Meanwhile, Shaolin Kung Fu and Karate offer very little focus on this range, leaving them with 0 points for this criteria. Having addressed the clinch, we naturally move on to ground techniques, where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is obviously the king, and while MMA is heavily based on BJJ, they both receive 3 points. As Greco-Roman wrestling spends a lot of time on the ground, it also receives 3 points. While Judo teaches ground techniques known as newaza, it usually focuses much less on this realm, leaving it with 2 points. It is worth mentioning that Japanese Jiu-Jitsu offers some ground technique solutions, giving it 1 point as well. As for the rest of the practices, the ground is usually an unfamiliar world to them, thus leaving them pointless this time. I will also address the aspect of competition and live pressure testing as an important aspect of martial arts in terms of making it effective, which is focused on not in all practices. MMA, boxing, judo, Muay Thai, Greco-Roman wrestling all spend an enormous amount of time drilling their techniques with live resisting opponents and applying their techniques in competition, giving 3 points to all of them. Since competition is an important part of karate, it also receives points, yet keeping in mind that only a comparatively small part of techniques taught in karate are actually applied in sparring, and that a great amount of time is spent on cooperative training, techniques, and katas, it is receiving 2 points instead of 3. The rest of the martial arts unfortunately have little to no live resistance training and competition, leaving them pointless in this category. While some practices already have a good head start, we will start to move towards more specialized criteria which will give a boost to certain practices, starting with the question of dealing with weapons, which interestingly, from our list of martial arts, is mainly covered only by Aikido and Shaolin Kung Fu. While it is questionable how effective the weapons techniques are in terms of actual application, for offering this unique vantage point, both of the practices deserve 3 points. It is worth mentioning that Karate and Wing Chun also occasionally include a few types of weapons, thus giving them each a single point. Where Aikido also thrives is in the aspect of offering a lifestyle philosophy, which it is famous for, giving it 3 points in this category. Judo, Karate, and Shaolin Kung Fu tend to also offer some philosophical insights, thus giving them both 2 points. I would also like to add at least 1 point to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for this criteria, as in my experience, personal development and overcoming the ego are quite often addressed in this practice. Meanwhile, boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, and Greco-Roman wrestling, while do sometimes dwell in sport psychology, as they are more focused on the sports aspect and do not offer a structured approach to philosophy, they receive no points here. Wing Chun and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu also tend to be more focused on techniques, leaving them pointless. What Eastern martial arts offer as well compared to Western practices is an Eastern cultural experience, of which some practitioners are specifically looking for. Since Shaolin Kung Fu, Aikido, Karate, Judo, and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu are strongly based on Eastern culture and traditions, they both receive 3 points. Wing Chun also offers a fairly strong experience of Eastern culture, giving it 2 points. Regarding the fact that the Muay Thai dance ritual is performed occasionally and that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu includes bowing and often gi as its uniform, they also both deserve an additional point for this aspect. The last positive aspect which will add points to martial arts is the acknowledgement of the self-defense gap. While not all practitioners realize, the gap between martial arts and self-defense exists, since self-defense is based not only on physical skills, but also on self-defense based knowledge. Unfortunately, such martial arts as Wing Chun, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, and Shaolin Kung Fu tend to focus so much on physical techniques that it often forgets to mention the gap that still exists in understanding what self-defense is truly about. Karate, Judo, boxing, Greco-Roman wrestling, and MMA, having the sports aspect, occasionally do address that sports and self-defense is not the same, but this misunderstanding often enough still lies in these practices, thus leaving them with 2 points. The only martial art which tends to be much more conscious of the self-defense gap is often enough BJJ, as this question is often admitted and addressed, and is also strongly emphasized by such figures as Hickson Gracie and of additional practices belonging to BJJ such as Gracie's combatives. As we are moving on to the last parts of the criteria, we will take away some of the points while looking at negative aspects, starting with the health aspect. All martial arts include some risk to them, yet some more than others. It is important to recognize that all full contact sports, which include strikes to the head, such as MMA, boxing, and Muay Thai, can lead to brain injury and other types of trauma, which leads to all of them losing 3 points. Karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and Greco-Roman wrestling, especially during its competition stages, may also lead to various injuries, causing them to lose 2 points. Some of the throws in Aikido and JJJ, while also considering the fact that sitting on your knees is not everybody's cup of tea, which may lead to knee injury, leads these both martial arts to lose a single point as well. As our last point of criteria, for a moment, we will come back to considering a martial art's effectiveness and what sometimes prevents a martial art from being effective. One of such barriers for efficiency may be reliance on overwhelming amount of techniques. While offering various techniques is not a sin, some martial arts focus so much on offering an overabundant amount of different techniques and demanding the student to know them all, while in the meantime sacrificing their efficiency. Such martial arts as Shaolin Kung Fu, Aikido, and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu tend to suffer strongly from this phenomena, causing them all to lose 3 points. They are also followed by Karate and Wing Chun, which introduce a great amount of techniques of which only a part is actually applicable, causing them to lose 2 points each. While more criteria could be named, we already see the results in the difference of points. Yet in the end, it is important to ask, does it really matter which martial art receives most points? When we take a look at the list of explored criteria, it quickly becomes clear that there is no martial art or practice which is complete, and that each practice has its strengths and weaknesses and offer unique benefits. The real reason why I wanted to make this video is to remind everyone that each practice is unique, and while some are better than others in particular fields, which is important to recognize, in the end, they may each suit individual needs based on the practitioner. For a practitioner, it is important to know what exactly they are looking for and to choose the right practice. It is unfortunate when someone chooses a martial art seeking for something which it does not really offer, and sometimes spends years practicing it without really learning what he came for. Yet when comparing different martial arts, it is also important to recognize that maybe someone is training a certain practice for reasons which only this practice can offer, and thus deserves our respect. That is why, in the end, it is important to ask ourselves clearly what we really want to learn, and to be critical enough to see where it is best to find this answer, but also to appreciate each martial art for what it uniquely offers. This way, each martial art may be the best martial art for its particular purpose. Do you agree with the points given in this video? What score does your martial art receive based on these criteria? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, make sure to share it with your friends. Want more videos like this one? Subscribe to the Martial Arts Journey channel. This was Rokas, and I wish you to own your journey.